The year is 1989. Nikkei, the Japanese stock market index, is at its peak. 4 of the world's top 5 largest companies are Japanese. The Rockefeller Center in New York is owned by Japan. The average Japanese citizen is richer than an American. Hollywood is imagining Japanese corporate empires taking over the world in movies like Blade Runner and Rising Sun. At the time, it felt inevitable. Japan was the future. But today, Japan's stock market is still below its 1989 high, and an entire generation is missing from the workforce. So what happened? This is the story of how Japan stunned the world and fell into a twilight zone it still struggles to escape. To understand how Japan got here, let's go back to where it all began. After World War II, Japan was in ruins. Cities bombed, factories flattened, people starving. Learning from Germany after World War I and a deep fear of communism spreading, America decided to help rebuild Japan. Fast. The Zaibatsu conglomerates were broken up, and the US poured in funds, especially during the Korean War, turning Japan into a crucial supplier. Land reforms gave ordinary citizens ownership. Japan's Ministry of International Trade and Industry guided economic policy, picking winning industries and protecting them fiercely. By the 1960s, Japan wasn't just catching up, it was leading. From cheap textiles, Japan moved into steel, automobiles, and electronics. Sony, Toyota, Panasonic became household names. They innovated relentlessly, imported world-class technology, and focused on quality manufacturing. By 1968, Japan was the second-largest economy in the world. The economy had exploded. GDP grew 24 times from 1960 to 1980, primarily driven by exports. At the heart of this remarkable ascent was Japan's distinct economic system, widely regarded at the time as superior to the Western model. A powerful alliance between massive corporate cartels and the Japanese government. These cartels, known as Keiretsu, were networks of the country's largest corporations, interwoven through cross-shareholding, each owning stakes in the others while remaining formally independent. But beyond collaboration, they had a major advantage: unlimited financial backing from the government. The state-owned Bank of Japan pumped enormous loans into the biggest Keiretsu, giving them near-endless capital to fuel their expansion abroad. Meanwhile, the government restricted imports from foreign competitors to shield Japan's domestic market, ensuring that Keiretsu firms could dominate at home and abroad. On top of that, the deliberately undervalued yen supercharged exports, making Japanese goods unbeatable in the global markets in terms of value for money. By the 1980s, Japan's dominance was global. Japanese products conquered one market after another. This helped Japanese become extremely wealthy. The citizens started getting a taste of the finer things in life. In 1978, Louis Vuitton entered Tokyo's Ginza district and quickly became one of their best-performing stores. Hermes followed suit in 1979, and by the 80s, Prada and other luxury giants were firmly rooted in Japan, seeing record sales. After the US crash in 1987, George Soros wrote in his piece that the power was flowing from the United States to the Asian economic superpower, Japan. But much like George Soros, few recognized that the groundwork for Japan's eventual decline had already been laid a couple of years earlier. In 1985, under US pressure, Japan signed the Plaza Accord, agreeing to let the yen strengthen. The result? Japanese exports became expensive and growth slowed. In a bid to reignite growth, the Bank of Japan slashed interest rates to a global low of 2.5%. The consequence? A surge of easy credit, fueling a speculative frenzy. Real estate prices soared. Land became more valuable than the buildings on it. Stock prices exploded. By 1989, the Nikkei had grown more than 300% in just 4 years. Companies started borrowing not to produce but to speculate. It was a frenzy. Nissan made more money from stocks than cars. Even the Imperial Palace grounds were once valued higher than the entire state of California. Banks handed out loans with little concern for credit quality, using investments as collateral. Investments that were greatly overinflated. After a long hesitation in 1989, the Bank of Japan finally got alarmed. It raised interest rates rapidly from 2.5% to 6% to cool down the madness. But it worked a bit too well. The Nikkei fell 43% in a year, wiping out over $1 trillion. Land prices collapsed. Banks loaded with bad loans teetered. Governments stepped in, and rather than let bad banks fail and assets reset, it propped them up, giving birth to what would be termed as zombie banks. But economic downturns are common, and many nations, like Argentina recently, have bounced back. So why is Japan's story so different? Why has Japan still not been able to recover after more than 3 decades? Japan's economic downturn didn't just slow down growth. It reshaped an entire generation's future, leaving millions in a struggle they've never fully recovered from. To understand that, we have to look at its distinct hiring culture. In Japan, landing a corporate job isn't just about submitting resumes and acing interviews. It's a ritual called Shishoku Katsudo, a carefully orchestrated job hunting process that university graduates go through at the end of their studies. Unlike in many countries where hiring happens year-round, Japanese companies, especially the biggest Keiretsu, only hire fresh graduates once a year, en masse. It's a system built on uniformity, where thousands of young job seekers, dressed identically in black and white suits, go through a gauntlet of group interviews and seminars, hoping to secure a position. Once they're in, they stay. Lifetime employment Shashinko ensures stability, and companies only promote from within. Shanei Shushun, carefully grooming employees over decades into leadership roles. It's a structure that keeps businesses stable but makes the job market inflexible. If you don't get in at the start, you may never get in at all. Throughout Japan's boom years, getting a corporate job wasn't an issue. There were enough openings to absorb fresh graduates each year. But then the bubble burst in 1990, and hiring froze completely. For nearly a decade, companies stopped hiring graduates altogether, choosing instead to hold onto their lifelong employees while weathering the crisis. When hiring finally resumed in the 2000s, the system had not changed. Companies still wanted fresh graduates. But for those who had graduated during the 1990s, it was already too late. An entire generation lost their shot at stable corporate careers, not because of skill or merit, but simply because they were born at the wrong time. They now live as part-time workers or in total social withdrawal, called hikikomori. These are men who never leave their homes, never start families, and never contribute to the economy. For context, this generation constitutes roughly 15% of current population of Japan. A rigid system that once ensured lifetime employment turned into an unforgiving gatekeeping mechanism, shutting out thousands who had done everything right. And even today, the scars remain. Many from that lost generation never regained the stability they were supposed to have, forever impacted by an era they couldn't control. Today, Japan is still incredibly advanced, beautiful, and safe. But beneath the surface, it's an aging society with falling wages, sky-high debt, and a shrinking workforce. And it all started with a boom that was too good to be true, followed by a fall no one was willing to admit had arrived. The story doesn't end here. In the next video, we'll look at the economic nightmare Japan is trapped in today. From the highest debt-to-GDP ratio in the developed world, to the collapse of the yen carry trade, and how Japan's struggles could trigger a global shock. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.